Welcome to the Turn Your Book into a Business podcast, where we help non-fiction authors just like you sell more books, make more money, and build a business from what you know.
Hi, I'm Brad Houck. Welcome to the Book to Business podcast. This is episode 18, and this week we're going to have a look at The Money is in the List. Now, there's something you're going to hear over and over and over in your career. The money is in the list. The money is in the list. But the funny thing is that sometimes it takes many years for that to actually click. I think I've talked to, hundreds of thousands of people over the years over this topic, whether it be in front of an audience or online. But the fact remains that many people just don't get this. And even I make mistakes with this, knowing the power of a list. So the money is in the list. What does that mean? Well, the fact of the matter is that when you have a list, it enables you to reach out to people and connect with them almost instantly. And not just one-to-one, but one-to-many. So I've seen businesses bought and sold for their lists. Literally, I've seen them sold for $500,000 only because someone wanted the list that the business had to use in their own business. Now that's an offline business that combined online sales. But the fact of the matter is that there is a lot of power in having a list of people that you can contact. To give you an example of why this is powerful, if we take an example of a hairdresser. Now, that might sound strange because I'm talking to authors, but I think you will understand why I'm using this example. If a hairdresser collects the email addresses or Facebook Messenger connections of their users, so their clients, and keeps them in a database, if they have a quiet Monday afternoon or Thursday afternoon, they've got some slot free, they can easily send out a message to people saying, hey, we have 2 slots free this afternoon where we can fit 2 clients. In fact, we're willing to offer you 25% off if you ring up and book now. Now, if they don't have a list, those slots will stay free unless they have someone walk in. But by having a list, if they send it out to 100, 200, 500 people, you can pretty well guarantee that someone, at least one, maybe 2, will fill those slots. The power there is that if you don't have the list, you can't do it. If you have the list, when things are quiet, you can actually sell on and make more money. From a business owner's perspective, such as a speaker or an author, if you're thinking of running a webinar, for example, imagine how much easier it would be to get an audience if you had 1,000 people on your list. So just say I was running a webinar on how to install software and build a list online, and I sent out that email to 1,000 people. Do you think I might get a couple of people who will sign up? Well, yes, I think so. Now imagine that I don't have a list and I run a webinar. How much harder is it going to be for me to fill that webinar? Exponentially harder, isn't it? So having a list is really, really important. And the bigger the list, the better, within reasons, okay? There's certain parameters there that affect that, and I'll go into them further on. But as you can imagine, if I send out 100 invites to the webinar, I might get, say, 3 people. If I send out 1,000, my numbers are likely to be much higher because just the odds of more people being interested. So let's define a list. A list is the first step in building a sales funnel. That's pretty simple, isn't it? Most people tend to think a list is a list of names, but it's not. It's actually the first step in building a sales funnel. When people come to your site, they'll often only come once. If you happen to be speaking in front of an audience, you may only stand in front of that audience once. So it's really, really important that you make a connection and connect with those people by building a list, so therefore it allows you to continue to educate them on an ongoing basis. Building a list gives you an opportunity to build trust. So as you continue to educate people through what you send out to your list, you build more and more trust. And then, as implied in the portion of being a sales funnel, when you do make an offer, people are more likely to buy. Now, one thing you need to understand about a list is that also you need to keep it one list per target audience. So having one list for everybody is not necessarily the best way. Sometimes you need to break people up. It can be how they came across you. They might be website, or they might be from stage, or they might be because they bought something from you. It doesn't matter what it is, but make sure that you target the right audience so that when you do send information out to that audience, you can actually send stuff that they're interested in. So last but not least, a list is a list of people and their contact details. Now, the old days we used to look at mail contacts, and obviously that information is extremely hard to get now because people don't like to give out their private information. But generally, people will give you their email address, and that way, if they get tired of you, they can always filter you out. If you can get first name and email address, that's even better. So the majority of lists, when people talk about lists, are actually lists made of email addresses. So that's, I suppose, the first step is building a list like that. Now, lists have changed. We now have other ways of building lists. For example, you may have heard of retargeting. And that's where you have a little piece of code on your website that tracks people who've come to your website from Google or Facebook and allows you to show ads to them. When those people come to your website, you tag them, and effectively you're adding them to a type of list. So that's another type of list. A popular type of list that's growing nowadays is the use of Facebook Messenger. So getting people into a messenger list, and when you send out a message, it goes out to a whole group of people at once. So you can send out individual messages, or you can send out a group message. So you can build a Facebook Messenger group. So different types of lists. All depends on your audience and how you reach them. So the first thing to understand about your list is understanding that there's different types of lists. The second thing about building a list is that the people you're putting on there need to be responsive to your topic. So that means they need to be interested in what it is that you're an expert in. So there's no use collecting a list of cat owners if you speak on dog training or you've written a book on how to train dogs, because cat owners are not going to be interested in a book about dogs. So that's really important, first of all, is that when you are building a list, that the people on that list need to be responsive to the topic. If they're not interested, then there's no point in having them on your list because they're not going to do anything. They're just taking up space. Second thing is they need to be connected to you in some way. So getting people who are cold is one way to build a list. But as you start to, connect with them through the list, you are building a connection with them. But initially they will have a connection through the topic again. So if they come to your website to find out about dog training and they get on your list, then there's a connection there. You want to try and grow a list of people who take action. There's nothing worse than having a list of 1,000 people or 100,000 people who do nothing. There's no point in having that list. It's a waste of your time and money. You're better having 100 people that do something than 1,000 people that do nothing. And the last thing there is that they want your help. So they're people who are interested in your topic and interested in learning more so that way you can help them learn more about that topic. Now, the third thing about a list is you must keep your list growing. So you must keep adding to your list on an ongoing basis. Many people start out, they build a list, and then they lose interest or they change their website and they stop actually collecting information on, names in their list, and therefore their list starts to die over time. You must keep adding to them. So make sure that you always have an offer going. you need to build content that will attract people to your list. So that means producing fresh content, fresh blog posts, articles, social media content, etc., that attract people to you so that you can get them on your list. And lastly, you need to clean that list to keep it growing. You want to get rid of all the people who are non-responsive, the people who never click a link in your emails or respond to your Facebook messengers, etc., depending on where your list is. Because you often pay for list management software, and it's generally paid for based on the number of people that you've got on your list. So if you've got 1,000 people on your list and 400 of them have never ever clicked a link, chances are they're not actually all that interested in what you're sending out. They might have wanted your lead magnet at the start, but they are not interested in what you're sending out on an ongoing basis. So get rid of them off your list. And that is normally a function that's built into list management software. So it's not hard to do. In fact, it will tell you that you need to clean your list. So we need a list of contacts we can reach out to. They need to be responsive to our topic, and we need to keep growing our list on an ongoing basis because people come and go. So how do you build a list? Well, it's pretty simple, really. You make people an offer of a special gift of some time that they can't resist. So we call that an irresistible lead magnet. Now, it can be as simple as a checklist. It can be as complex as an ebook or a course. It really doesn't matter. My personal opinion is it should be something that's easy to consume. In other words, it's really interesting content to the person who's on your website or that you're speaking in front of, or that you might have read your book, but they can quickly consume and apply it. So they can read a one sheet, read down that sheet, and straight away start to implement what they read. So it might be 10 things you can do today to grow your business. And they can go, number one, go and talk to somebody. Oh, okay, I can do that today. So straight away they can apply that so they get a result instantly. Now, by doing that, by making it easy to apply, easy to understand, and easy to use, you're showing your expertise, because people go, wow, those 10 things were easy. I wonder what you've got that could help me be even better at that particular topic. So it doesn't matter whether you're a real business, an author building a business, a speaker author building a business. It doesn't matter. Anybody can use a lead magnet to build a list. And it doesn't need to be fancy. It can be just really, really simple, as I said, like a checklist of 10 things you need to do. Might be, 10 things you need to check to make sure this car's safe. And they can walk around their car and tick it off. It's easy. Now, once you've got your lead magnet, you need some way to collect the email addresses and names, etc., and to deliver the lead magnet. Now, the simplest thing to do is to use a piece of online software. And there's dozens of pieces of software. I always recommend people who have never done this before start with MailChimp. And the reason I suggest that is because it's free. Now, there's lots of other pieces of software, and it depends on what your needs are. It really is irrelevant. They all work the same. They all have different features depending on what you need. So the software like MailChimp basically gives you a form that you can put on your website or that you can link to on MailChimp, where people put in their name and email address. And then when they press enter, it sends them an email in response, and that email tells them how they can get the lead magnet or the free gift. And that's it. That's pretty simple, isn't it? So there's nothing too fancy about that. Yes, there is a bit of a learning curve, no doubt, with the software, but there is also plenty of free tutorials on YouTube on how to do that. So the software gives you a form that allows you to collect their first name and email address, or just email address, whatever, and delivers an email to them that has the address where they can get that download. Now, obviously, it has to be something that's downloadable or something that's delivered electronically, because anything else would need to be mailed. Now, I'm not saying you can't mail things to people, that's fine. but you are making it harder. It also means that people are not getting what they want straight away. And remember, we're trying to get something into the hands of the people straight away so they can have a quick win. Now, the next step after that is actually to set up some autoresponders. Now, autoresponders, quite simply, are a piece of software, part of MailChimp or any of those sorts of systems, that continue to auto send a series of email spaced out by time. So you may have it set up so that you get an email straight away that gives them the free gift, and then you might follow up with 5 emails spaced out by 3 days between each one that give them 5 more tips that help them learn more about your topic, and then in the last email you might have a special offer to them. So that's an easy way to start. And then as that's going on, we obviously want to keep in regular contact, because I said one of the most important parts about having a list is keeping in contact with the people on the list. So what you need to do is start to think about sending out regular information to them. Now, traditionally, we've thought of this as a newsletter. And yes, a newsletter is a great way to send information, but don't call it a newsletter. People don't want newsletters, okay? They want tips, tricks, updates, what's happening now, all those sorts of things. But just don't call it a newsletter. Yes, in essence, it's a newsletter. Let's face facts. But it's a way to send out regular information. And you should be looking at sending out this sort of thing at least once a month. You can send it out more often if your list enjoys more regular information. So if your topic is something that changes really quick, like politics, you might be sending out an email every day or every week. But if your topic is something like dog training, things don't change that fast. So once a month would be fine. And that's typical for any, real world business as well when it comes to sending out information. But the key thing is that it needs to be regular. It needs to go out at the same time every month. If it goes out irregularly, people stop looking to see it, they stop expecting it, and it gets consigned to their spam mail pretty well. So, the money is in the list. It's a simple formula. If you send information out to somebody and 3% of those people you send it to take action, well then if you send it to 100 people, then 3 people do something. If you send it to 1,000 people, then 30 people do something. If you send it to 1 million people, then a lot of people do something. So having a large, active, responsive list is worth a lot of money to you. As you can guess, as I said earlier, if you're running a webinar or you're selling a new course or you're releasing a new book, if you can release a new book and you let 100 people know, well, that's great. But imagine if you could send it out to 100,000 people. Can you imagine how many pre-orders you would get? Yeah, exactly. A lot more. So building a list is a really, really important part of your business because it's a way to reach out to people and make instant money. Don't forget our hairdresser example. 2 empty slots, they fill them quickly, they're making money. So instead of the seats sitting empty, they've got clients in there. Instant money. So remember, the money is in the list and you need to start thinking about implementing that. Now there's 2 steps. Obviously, you need to create a lead magnet and you need to sign up for MailChimp or a piece of software like that and integrate a form into your site to capture that. The best type of form is a pop-up form, one that comes up over the top of the website and says, hey, get our free gift. Click here to fill in your email address. The second best is a welcome gate, which is, you may not have seen those, but it's a piece of software that makes your website, have a form that slides down from the top and covers the first page of your website. And if people say, no, I don't wish to fill in the form, it slides away and your website shows up. So pretty simple. Now, some people would say that was really, really annoying, but it's really, really effective. The trick is understanding your own audience and testing to see what works best for you. Just having a form on your page is nowhere near as effective as having a pop-up. Why? Because a pop-up grabs people's attention and forces them to consider getting your lead magnet. I'm Brad Houck. This is episode 18. The money is in the list. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of the Turn Your Book into a Business podcast. If I can help you grow your business, go to turnyourbookintooabusiness.com and fill in the contact form there, and I will get back to you to have a chat. I'll catch you in the next episode.